Welcome to the Airflow Podcast. I'm your host, Rickey Thomas, and this is the place where Kingdom heirs go to be informed and inspired. So sit back, relax, and flow with me. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Airflow Podcast. I'm your host, Rickey Thomas. I've got my lovely wife and guest host back in the building as we continue our topic of marriage transparency. This is part 2 of this. So KK, welcome back. Thanks for joining us again. So we're just going to get right into it because, I saw some responses coming back from different people, and we know marriages are really big. It's Black History Month, but it's also, we got Valentine's Day. The world is celebrating this upcoming Monday, and love and just relationships. But I've grown up, you always hear, you want to talk to those who have been where you've been or are where you are and things like that. And a lot of times when people talk about marriages, they talk to people who are married and they get advice, but then you also have to look at the other side of it. You have to look at those who are divorced. And I came across the article some years ago that we had posted on our Marriage Transparency Diary Facebook page, and the article really talks about things that divorced folks could have done or would have done to save. If they would have done these things, they would have saved their marriages. And I thought that was really powerful. And it's good insight to hear. So we're going to go through some of those, kind of talk from different experiences. But, I just this is something that we wanted to go through. And again, we're ramping up for our podcast. We're excited about this Marriage Transparency Diary podcast. We're going to focus just solely on the relationship of marriage and just the good, the bad, the ugly. But, prayerfully, it's more good than anything. And we want to really promote marriages, because I think nowadays, and KK, correct me if I'm wrong, it just seems like people don't have the same regard to marriage as they did, when our parents were younger, and parents were younger, and the older generations and things like that. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get into this. The first thing the first little nugget that was dropped in this article was that your marriage is not guaranteed to be easy or to be good as your vows, to be as good as your vows. It depends on what you put into it each day. So I'll repeat that. Your marriage is not guaranteed to be as good as your vows. Now, for those that know the marriage vows, it's always, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better, for worse, for richer, for poor, and sickness and in health, to love and to cherish, to death do us part. So we've heard the traditional vows, right? But in this one, just saying your marriage is not guaranteed to be as good as your vows. It's not always going to be, sickness and health. It's on both sides. It's more than that. It's more to it, because you've got to put in the work. You've got to put it in so that when the bad days happen, you've already got the foundation established that you can deal with it, whether it's something with your spouse, with yourself, something that you're going through together. But KK, just chime in on that piece.
Sometimes we feel like we're just thinking about the vows on richer for poor, through sickness, through health. Do people just get married just for the sake of getting married, or do they really take those vows seriously?
Right.
It's almost like it's just a ceremony, something that they know that they have to go through. I mean, not necessarily a ceremony, because you can go down to the courthouse and get a marriage certificate, but for those who actually decide to go through the ceremony of having a wedding, do they really take the vows serious?
Yeah.
And if you go back to what it say, your marriage is not guaranteed to be as good as the vows. It depends on what you put into it each day. I mean, that's true, because if you don't put nothing into it, then you're not going to get nothing out of it. I mean, Being married, I don't want to say it's almost like a job, but it's almost like a job, because just like when you go to your job, you go to work every day, you're supposed to give 100. You put in 100, you're supposed to also put in 100 into your marriage. I know we spoke years ago about when people say your marriage is 50-50.
Mm.
I don't agree with that, because I feel that, it takes, for a couple, you have to be 100, because if
Yeah.
I'm just giving 50% of myself and you only giving 50% of yourself, then 50% 50 equals 100, but that's not 100% of me giving to
Myself.
you.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's good, because I think a lot of people do go into it with that mentality. Like, yeah, I give 50%, it's 50-50. It's always 50-50, it's give and take. And that mentality is where I think people go wrong, because you have to be 100% committed to give yourself to the marriage. So it's not a give and take. You should be with the mindset that I'm giving. And some people say I've given, so I can't give anymore. I'm not getting anything in return. That's another situation. But we are called to give. Christ loved us. Christ loved the church, and that's how we're called as men, to love our wives as Christ loved the church. He died for the church. He gave everything he had for the church. It's the same thing. And it's not just the men to the wives, it's the wives to the men. So to the husband. So that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up. Anything else you want to add to that one?
No, I don't have anything else to add to that.
So, and it kind of runs to the next one. The second one, it talks about the roots of your love need to run deep from the start. If the love is attraction or surface based, the love will die. Now this one is really good. They're all good, but just a lot of people are marrying people for superficial reasons. It's because it's money, it's some level of security, which a woman should feel secure in a marriage and in a relationship. But if all your reasons for marrying somebody is because of what they can do for you, or what you can do, what can be done, versus a true love, a true passion for each other, wanting to serve the other person, wanting to help that person be great and you be great, and y'all help each other to grow together. If you don't have that kind of depth, that foundation from the beginning, it's going to all fall apart. It's a house of cards. I mean, it is really going to be a problem when you go through those tough times.
I would take it even further. If you marry somebody or date somebody just for their looks, then you get married. How far is those looks going to take you and
Right.
take y'all in that marriage?
Yeah. And I think that's why, and this is Rickey's opinion, but I think that's why you see so many people doing all of these alterations to their bodies, their faces as they get older. Things start to sag a little bit. It's one thing to want to make yourself look good. And I appreciate anybody who want to make themselves or do anything they can to help themselves look good for their spouse or for themselves. It just gets to the point where you feel like I have to do this in order to keep my husband, or my husband has to do these things to keep my wife. We should want to look our best for each other. But if the foundation is because, she got a great body, and that's the reason why, because it's a physical attraction, or because he, has got the nice muscles and all the other stuff, whatever that superficial thing is, or money, but when those hard times hit, money may go out or run out in certain situations. Your body starts to change as you get older. You're not as cut as you used to be, and all that good stuff. What are you standing on at that point? What's your
Right.
foundation?
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. You got to be able, me personally, I got to be able to look at you.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that you got to be like this super handsome person or this pretty boy, even though your name Pretty Ricky. But
Oh, you throw that in there. Wow. All right.
but I don't want no pretty boy. Somebody that's in the mirror longer than I am. But at the same time, I also feel that if you're dating someone or you're married to someone just because they look a certain way, then that's not going. That marriage is not going to last at all, because, like you said, eventually they're not going to be as pretty anymore when they get older. Or they may be. I mean, they could be.
Some people
But
age gracefully, but again, it's a rocky foundation. I mean, it's superficial to that point to say, I love this person, or it's more lust. I'll just put it like that. You're lusting over that
yeah,
person because of their physical attributes. Like, everybody's into the big butt. Most everybody's like, oh, big butt. Everybody want to get these Brazilian butt lifts. They want to go bigger, so they're noticed. Somebody sees them, them things don't stay up there forever, unless they putting so much in, then your skin just gonna start sagging. So either way, there's gonna be some changes, whether whether you naturally have it or you don't. Things change. The body is going to alter, but what foundation do you have to stand on when those things are gone? So I always think about that. It's just it's okay. I'm not downing anybody for getting themselves doing alteration and stuff like that. If you feel like that's what you need to do for yourself, then do it for yourself. But in terms of basing my relationships off of that, I just don't think, especially a marriage, there's no substance to that.
right. Right. You need to be with somebody that's gonna treat you right, other than just someone that looks good on your arm.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all right with being arm candy, but you know, me,
You're a trophy husband.
I'm a trophy husband. Next one. Here's another good one. So some parts of your marriage will be frustrating, but love enough to be patient to ride out the lows and receive the highs. Um,
Woo!
yeah, yeah.
That can
So
that can preach right there.
I can preach right there. Yeah, it can, but you always hear the things that love is patient, love is kind. Patience is one of the things that I think we have lost in today's marital mindset. I think people are so quick to cancel somebody or get out of a relationship or marriage if one thing goes wrong or if this goes wrong. I mean, there are obviously circumstances that you immediately want to get out of it, but I'm just talking about little quirks, little things that if you work through it, you develop some things. Because again, everybody, you're not coming to the marriage perfect, and this is where some of that process in the beginning, when you're dating, you're really finding out about a person.
Mm-hmm.
You figure out, do I like this person? Do I like some of their ways? Do I, some of their family? Sometimes people are like, your family is terrible. If I just had to deal with you, cool. But your family, these are things that you have to vet out before you get married. And I think once you get to the marriage, if you haven't done that and then you just have this mindset that, you know, marriage is not going to be frustrating. Like it's just going to be this perfect fairy tale. He's going to love me. She's going to love me. We're going to do all this stuff, and we're never going to have those valley moments. You're psyching yourself out. I don't know anybody that's been married that can't say they haven't had rough times. It may not be because of the spouse's fault. It may just be life in general, but there are rough times. If you can't deal with that, then it's going to be hard for you to get to those highs.
Yep, I agree. That's like just thinking back on sometimes like people get married way too fast, so they don't date. Sometimes they don't date long enough. I guess that goes by the person, because some people say, okay, if it could be some that dated like 3 months to 6 months, they feel that that was enough time to really get to know the person. But I mean, I can only speak for me personally on all these different points. I mean, again, I'm not an expert, but just from my experience and what I feel that I wouldn't do, I don't think 3 to 6 months is long enough to know a person for me in order to get married. Because I mean, you think about it, when you dating somebody, within that 3 to 6 months, you're not seeing all the, well, sometimes you could. Again, all this depends on the person that you're dating.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
most of the time you're not seeing the ugly. You're in that stage where everything is this
that in love.
Yeah, you all in love, you guys are, holding hands, skipping around the park and all that kind of stuff,
taking long
but
walks on the beach.
right, which you still should be doing that kind of stuff. But
I mean,
that goes back to our episode last week. But
yeah,
Um, but I just feel like, sometimes people don't take the time to really get to know that person. I mean, think about it. To me, in 3 to 6 months, are you really seeing the family that they come from? Because that was important to me,
Mm-hmm.
before we got married. I mean, my thing was I always said that I want to marry somebody that come from a similar background as me, a similar family and everything, because I always wanted when I got married that it wasn't like, oh, that's your family, this is my family. No, this is our family,
Right.
and I always wanted our family to be able to come together, like, and for like holidays and stuff like that, we all under one roof and everybody's getting along. That
Yeah.
is one reason why when we got married, that in a traditional marriage and wedding, most people, you have the husband's family sitting on one side and the wife's family sitting on the other side. And that's one thing I said, no, I don't want that to happen. I want our families to be together, because when we get married, we're supposed to be one.
Yeah. It's no
You know what I'm saying?
separation.
So, but yeah, so that just go back to that, looking at the highs and the lows or whatever the marriage, because I feel like they didn't take the time to really vet and see the things that during the dating stage
Yeah.
that happens when they get married. And not only that, going back to your point, they looking at this, they think like the wedding or marriage is going to be like this fairy tale, and it's
Mm-hmm.
not. You watching these little reality shows and all this other stuff on TV and looking at these other, not even that, you can see like other people relationship, maybe your friends, like, man, I want a marriage like that, but you don't know what happens, behind closed doors.
Right.
It don't always have to be bad things, but
But
it's
you
just
don't know the work that they put in to get to that point.
right,
You see,
right,
just like anything else, you see the end result or where they're at in the marriage right now, and but they don't know, the maturity, the maturation process that took place to get there. Because again, just like you and I, there was things that you and I were immature about when we got married, but we made the conscious decision that we are going to work through it for each other. It wasn't that, I was wanting you to do this and you were wanting me to do that. We started off with some of that, but it became a point where we said, okay, we're going to work through this together. And that's some of the stuff that you can learn when you said that vetting out process when you're dating. How do people deal with conflicts?
mm-hmm.
How do you handle, can you have crucial conversations? Can you have those kind of moments? Knowing that about your significant other is going to be important. That is a huge part to marriage, because if you have somebody that always avoids problems, I mean, I'm not saying you have to just run from them, but you have to also look at it as this is something that they're going to have to get help with. That is a cause that we have to make sure we get that addressed before we get married. These things we have to work through, and sometimes that's what marital counseling does, before you premarital counseling does, before you get married. Have you considered all this? Have you seen, like you said, 3 to 6 months? I don't know a lot of people who can see each other. I mean, again, you might see them and you might click and vibe with somebody very quickly, but you're not seeing everything in three to
Right.
six months. I don't care if you
Yeah.
spend every day together. I mean, there's just different seasons throughout the year that people go through, and you don't see that in that short time frame. I mean, it takes 9 months to make a baby. So, 3 to 6 months is a short time. So,
In 3 to 6 months, you're supposed to have fun in 3 to 6 months. If y'all together 3 to 6 months and you're already arguing, then I mean, you definitely shouldn't be thinking about getting married.
yeah, I mean, it's there. There's something there that needs to be addressed. I'm not saying that you can't have these issues, but these are things you want to find out in the dating phase and work through them in the dating phase, and then make the decisions. If we can move forward to that next step. But
And
you've
then,
got
and
it.
again, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't
Yeah, go
cut
ahead,
you
go
off.
ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
I was just gonna say a disclaimer too to the ones that did get married within 3 to 6 months. There's nothing against any of those individuals, but
No,
it's just not for me.
yeah,
I mean, again, it could be some that did get married within that time and been married 20, 10, 20 plus years. I mean, I take my hat off to you, but there's just me.
but
I
those are
just feel
probably people
like
that are willing to work too. They're willing to
right,
that. And let me say this: we're talking about people who have done that, been successful because they got healthy marriages. Because some people just stay together because it's just convenient. It's their
or
partners.
kids or
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah. It's just a conveniency thing. They basically they're not dating. They're just there. They're just staying in the same place, because it's cheaper for them to keep the same place and go through that. So, I'm talking about healthy marriages, that they know how to work through conflicts. They know how to deal with things and they're growing together. There are instances where people can instantly meet each other in a short time frame, get married and be successful, but it's just about,
Right.
obviously God putting them together, but the other piece is just they're willing to work through those things. So
Right.
that's very important. All right. The next one, and again, this is another good one. The grass is not always greener. Even if it looks more lush, you don't know the quality of the soil. We know that cheating is on an all-time. I mean, cheating now, I mean, it's every R&B song, every time you turn on something, reality shows, the drama, whenever you got a married couple, everybody's like, they can't be that happy. Somebody got to be cheating. There ain't nobody that happy with one person. It's part of that stigma thing, but there's just the development that, well, I can always go over here. So and so, she's telling me that she's gonna do this and that, and he's telling me he's gonna do this and that for her. They're looking at it like, man, it's nice and sunny over there. It's dark and gloomy over here. And then you go over there, you mess around and step in that lawn, and then you realize, like, man, this ain't even real grass. This ain't, this ain't nothing fertile over here. Ain't no grass. This is astroturf on top of sand. Ain't nothing growing over here, but it looks good. Superficially, it's like, oh man, this is great. She got this going on, that going on. She telling me she gonna do a little this, do that. I'm like, bet, let's do it.
Mhm.
Then you figure out why she by herself, or why, I mean, I ain't saying everybody's crazy like that, but again, don't always assume. You can't assume that the grass is green on the other side. And I know, again, a lot of divorces end because of infidelity. So, that's something that you have to look at. It's not green, and it's more likely it's probably not going to be greener. I'm not saying there are people that get divorced and they marry the person that they may have, cheated with. Sometimes that happens, but more times more times than others, is probably not. They don't stay together long.
Right. Like you said, the ones that, they cheat, they can look at the other person, like, just say, for instance, from a female perspective, looking at this guy because he got this body, like, man, he fine. Man, I wonder what he working with,
Right.
and then you end up cheating and messing around with him. He ain't worth nothing.
One worth time. But then, it's the consequences that come with that, because now you got, not only are you hurting the person that you're committed to, you're causing a wedge of issues in the family. So now you got family things. I mean, it's more than just that moment of, that indecision, that moment of, just losing your cool or whatever. I mean, this is where you have to learn to have outlets, because, again, that's not a healthy outlet to bring anything like that into a marriage. So, again, the grass is not always greener.
And just bringing that spirit in your house.
Spirit, STD, another baby outside of your marriage. There's a lot of things that people deal with, and again, I'm not, I know people have made mistakes, and people have made mistakes in marriages, and they go on to work through them together, and have successful marriages. But it's just, again, this is coming from divorced couples saying that, these are things that we would have done, or we could have made sure that we looked at, we did this and knew these things, I would have still been married. So, anything else on that one?
Again, disclaimer, we're not looking down on anybody that cheated or anything else. I mean, like Rickey said, we're just going through these points that we have. A sin is a sin. No sin is worse than the next sin. But,
Right.
for the ones that went through that and cheated on their spouses, and you worked through it and God forgave you, then, I commend you for that as well.
Yeah. I mean, again, this ain't about condemnation. This is just saying, stopping people who are, if you're doing it, because you think that, or, if you're thinking about it, these are the things that you want to consider, because it always comes back. You always hear what's done in the dark always comes to light. It's always going to come back at some point in time. So you got to be real careful with that.
Yeah, people make mistakes, so it's
Yeah.
life. As long as you learn from your mistake.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Moving on. Next one. So they said, it's more than the ring. Can you imagine growing old or being sick with this person? And that, again, that kind of goes back to what we were talking about a little earlier. It's not about the superficial piece. The superficial piece, and everybody, everybody understands, somebody can buy you a nice big ring. You're like, oh, I got the ring. And people get so happy, like, look, I got this, I say people, the woman looks happy, she's like, oh, I got the ring, I got this big ring. I'm engaged now, and this, that, and the other. And you wind up being engaged for like 5 or 6 years. You got that ring because you were happy, because that's what you wanted. So it's like, this is a shut up ring. This is all right. Go over there, chill out, but what else do you like about that person? And it could be that you feel like you love that person, but are you getting that reciprocated back to you? But the question that they asked was, can you imagine growing old or being sick with this person? Can you imagine, again, them being there, 20, 30 years later, 40 years later, all the kids are gone, y'all gray, and, starting to see a little wrinkle pop up here and there. Again, it's like, can you imagine yourself being with that person? Again, they're sick. Right now I can tell you, if I got to take care of KK, bathe her, wipe her, do all that stuff, God forbid that she won't get to that place. But if I had to do it, I would do it. I love her like that.
We kind of been in that place before.
Yeah. I mean, we have. And that's where you go. I mean, your back surgery, if I had, things that I had surgery and I couldn't do certain things, you feel embarrassed a little bit, but I didn't think. I just jumped up and did it. Like, all right, let me do what I got to do. If I got to, do this, do that, help you to the bathroom, wash you, whatever, because that's the love, that's the service of the situation. I am here to serve you. And if you have that mentality, you'll do great in your marriage.
And it happened actually before my back surgery when I first hurt my back.
Oh yeah.
So it was years. Well, you'd have had to take care of me for years, but I mean,
no, but it was things that,
I mean, it was rough for at least almost 6 months.
Right. I mean, you think about, it was a family impact, right?
2 months.
You really couldn't sit in the car. You couldn't sit up. You were like laying in the bed. You couldn't go to basketball games. You couldn't drive really. So there was a lot.
Shower. I couldn't bathe myself. I couldn't wipe myself.
Yeah. I mean, it was like that. So you think about that. And, again, you're supposed to look at where you're at today and then think about where it can be years from now. Are we taking care? Can we take care of each other? Are we going to be like, I don't feel like doing that? Your love, you get those tests throughout time. If you have anybody that's been married and had kids, that as a man, as a husband, and you're sitting there with your wife and she had kids, there's things she ain't gonna be able to do right away. She's gonna be sore. She can't, she can't bend a lot. She can't. If she had a C-section, she really can't. I mean, they want her to move, but there's things that you got to pick up. You have to do and kick in and do different things. There's gonna be times where, as a man, we may be down for whatever situation, and our spouse, our wife picks us up. I mean, that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to serve each other. So that's the mindset. It's not about the ring. It's not about the big extravagant wedding. Yeah, that's cool. But it's after that, the real relationship. That's where the fun, whenever somebody gets married, it's always the realism sets in after the marriage, after the wedding is over, all the ceremonies, everybody's going home. Now it's the two of you and it's your turn to build. All the festivities are over.
You're looking at each other like, what's next?
Right. Those are things you're supposed to know before you even get to that point. The wedding is just like, hey, we're going to celebrate, we got so many great things to go, and that's why a lot of people, after the first couple of years of marriage, after, people stop asking about them, hey, how's the marriage going? after a while, people stop asking. They don't ask you that too much unless they, sense something ain't right. But after that's all over, it's like, okay, yeah, that's so and so. They've been married for a little bit. Whoop de whoop. It's good to see them. Now, I hope they're doing well. But yeah, you had that ring. That ring gets old. It's like, okay, what's the next thing? So
Yeah, speaking of that, I think it might be time for an upgrade.
yeah, I think it is. You see how she tried to throw this in? You gonna throw that in on the podcast? I haven't heard her say one thing about upgrading the ring. Now it's already been on my spirit to do something, but but I ain't heard her say one thing. She go on the podcast now. She gonna throw little hints out there.
I mean, you opened the door, so I walked in.
Okay, all right.
No, I'm just playing. I'm good with what I have. I don't care about all that. I'd rather feel it going on vacation than get another ring.
Now you heard her say that too. So that's the witness. All right, we're gonna move on. We ain't gonna get stuck on that one. Here's one thing, and this is interesting. So I know this is something we had to grow with a little bit. It's best to cool off alone before throwing down harsh words in a fight. Now,
wait.
I'm gonna let you.
How long did it take you to learn it?
To learn what? No, but I didn't throw harsh words. Now let's be honest.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Learn
how long
what?
did it take you to learn to let me cool down?
I mean, it took me some years in the beginning. It took me some years. I ain't gonna say a couple. Years? I don't know how many years. I mean, shoot, now we've been married almost 20 years. It's like it started merging together now. But I will say this. I had to learn. The one thing I had to learn with KK is, and how I am, and I've said this before, I like to deal with the situation right then so I can go to bed and I don't have to go to bed angry. KK wants to marinate it. She did. She's gotten better, but she would want to marinate on it. And then what she would do, and you got to admit, she would marinate on it so long that she would never come back to it so we can address the situation and try to put it to bed. She just like, okay, I done forgot it and don't bring it up again. Until something happens again, then it's like, yeah, I'm still mad at you for the last time that happened. I'm like, I thought we was good from that. Now, don't say, don't even do it.
No, I eventually talk about it.
Eventually for her is how long?
It may take a couple of days.
Couple days?
At the beginning, maybe a week.
I don't even know. All right. So again, it is best if especially if you have somebody that has a temper, even if they don't have a temper, but they got so upset and you can see them. At some point, somebody does have to be the bigger person. All that yelling and screaming, if you got to say, hey, let's just walk away, you go ahead, do what you got to do. I mean, me, I'm still going to sleep in the bed like, hey, KK be like, you wouldn't go into the other room. I'll be right there in the bed. Like, I mean, what? I got to sleep. No, I got to go in another room. Like,
yes, there's other rooms.
We got to talk.
It's a couch. Everything.
Why we got to go to the couch?
Because I'm mad.
Okay, but you don't want to talk. So I got to go. Now I got to deal with you not talking to me. And I got to go sleep on the couch when I got a nice, comfortable bed. I got to get double punished. And and then it comes down to, I really wasn't the problem.
Oh.
I'm saying those times. I'm not saying all the time. I'm saying those times where it's like, when we talked about it, it was like it was a miscommunication. There was a misunderstanding, misinterpretation, whatever.
How are you gonna sit there and say you weren't the problem?
I'm saying there were times. I said there were times.
No, you said those times.
Right, when I wasn't the problem. And so I'm not saying it was all the time. I know. I mean, look, I've been very transparent about it. I've done some things, said some things, or
I wasn't a problem. I don't get mad just to get mad.
You was never a problem. You never overestimated or not overestimated. You never overhyped the situation or misinterpreted a situation.
No.
You never misinterpreted.
I heard it how it was said.
Oh Lord. So again, it's best to cool off alone before throwing down harsh words in a fight. That's just words for anybody. It's not even a marriage. That's just in general. Don't provoke. You should never provoke each other. Because at the end of the day, what you're going to find out is going to happen is something's going to be said that one person didn't really want to say because they were in their emotions and they couldn't control it. They said something, and once you say it, you can't take it back.
Right. And I mean, it just be for real. Let's get serious though. But I mean, that's the
I
main
am
reason.
serious, but carry on.
That's the main reason why. Whatever. That's the main reason why I never said anything at that time, because whoever fault it was, whether it was your fault or my fault, I always feel like I want to cool down before I say anything, because of that. I don't want to say anything that at the time I may mean it or feel it, but after you sit back and you think about, like, dang, it really wasn't that bad, or I didn't have to say it that way. So instead of me to have to come back and apologize and say, because I don't have a problem apologizing, but
Okay. All right. Come on. Come on, Sister K.
anyways,
Come on. Lord Jesus.
but
Boy.
I don't now.
You just
But
said
anyways,
you just said I was trying to avoid apologizing because
but see, we're talking about back then, years ago, right? But I mean,
okay.
even now,
Yeah,
instead of
even
me have
now.
to, yeah, for me not to have to say something like apologize or whatever, just avoid all that. Because I mean, I don't have a problem apologize. I probably did at the beginning. Not that I had a problem apologize, I just didn't do it that much. But anyways, to avoid all that, I like to sit back and just think about the situation before I react. Because if I react right then, I'm gonna say something that I probably shouldn't have said, or I might not have really
So
meant.
what KK saying, she gonna cuss you out. She gonna tell you about
I don't
yourself.
cuss. I don't cuss. I might tell you off, but I don't cuss.
You ain't gonna cuss me out.
Rickey, how often do I cuss?
Back then.
For real,
Well, we
Rickey.
say, I mean, we talking about no, I'm just
I did not cuss back then.
KK, she will snap off on you though.
Yeah, I did used to snap off. And
She
that's
snap.
when I was immature. And I had to learn how to, like what they say was at point four, be more patient.
Thank God for allowing both of us to mature, because we wouldn't have been here today. So I said both of us. All right, next one. Both of you need to take turns steering the wheel.
I may need you to elaborate on that one.
All right, so
basically take control.
Take control, or there may be
Lead.
times where there may be situations where, let's just say mentally, let's just say something happened and I'm mentally unable to, for that moment or for that time period, to be the person I'm supposed to be. There may be times where you have to pick me up. There's times where I have to pick you up. That's what I think it that really means. There's times where, hey, there's a lot going on. You might come to me and say, you know what, I got this. You just focus on that piece. Or like when your back was hurting or things like that, like, hey, I got you. It really don't have to be said. It's almost like we move into those modes without having to say it. You don't have to come to me and say, Rickey, I need you to do this. Now, back in the day, yes, because in that immaturity, there was things that we were still in that filling out process, having babies, like I've said before, I wasn't the best at doing, I did all the cuddle stuff, the fun stuff with the babies, this, that, and the other. When it came to waking up in the middle of the night, changing diapers, all that other stuff, I taking giving baths or doing it without you having to tell me to do it. I wasn't the best at that in the beginning. I mean, I have no problem admitting it. So
you got a little better on the third one.
I got better. And but again, whatever the reasons, it was just lack of maturity, just lack of really being thoughtful in the situation. It was all of that. But there was times where I had to step up, and not just step up. It's just I'm serving. It's like, hey, I got this. I'm doing this part. I understand I'm the priest, prophet, and king, and for all the men out there who wants to be these super dominant alpha males, and you can be the priest, prophet, and king and still give people and delegate. I'm saying delegate, but because you're really not delegating to your wife at that point. But as a team, I may have to yield to her in certain times. She has to yield to me in times, but we work together. We understand our roles. Like I said previously, KK is very good with finances, and she manages a lot of, so I yield to her. I give her the steering wheel a lot of times. Now I've got better, and I feel more comfortable with things, but at the beginning she wasn't comfortable, I wasn't comfortable, and I told her, like, you're just better at this than me. And it's not, she couldn't get it at the time. She was like, why are you not good at this? But eventually she started seeing and understanding it more and more. But we had to yield to each other in certain situations. Like, she can cook, but I like to cook. So if you go by the traditional role of the wife is normally the one who cooks and all that, like, I like cooking. I love cooking. I love doing it. So it doesn't bother me to do it. I go to the grocery store. It doesn't bother me to do it.
And I like watching you do it.
Okay.
It turns me on.
Oh, okay. She's trying to get me to keep cooking. I got you. I got you. Hey, but those are the little signals. So take turns. Everything doesn't have to be dominated from one side of the marriage. Like, everything is focused on this. It's all about that balance there, because there's going to be times where I've had times in my career where I had to lean on KK to do more than she normally had to do, because I was trying to start a new job, and I was like, it was very demanding, and it was taxing on me, and I felt bad. And me and her talked about, I told her, we sat down, we talked about it. And even though we talked about it, it still doesn't do the same thing as when you're going through it, but at the end of the day, we understood that. And there was times where she had new positions and she was like, hey, I'm not going to be able to pick the kids up like this. My time is, they're demanding this. So we've gone through those experiences, but we were able to work through them together. And, now we're at a place where there's more flexibility. We've been able to be there for our kids, for each other and things. So, but we had to work through that, we didn't give up on each other. So that's what that one about patience, that's where that kicks in too.
Yeah, that's probably one of the examples that I was thinking of during careers. When you have a spouse that's trying to move up to corporate America, and sometimes you have to take on more responsibility than you had before.
Yeah. And that is, again, that's just that's balance, serving each other, filling in, you serve from spot to spot on the way to the next spot. It is just that motto of I'm going to do everything. That's given 100%. That's not like, oh, well, you're not about to be sitting here working and with, having fun and not having fun, but out working and I'm sitting here with the kids and I got to do all this stuff. Like, no, we play our roles, and sometimes the roles shift in different ways, but we do what we need to do to make sure that, everything is taken care of. And that's the best thing I can say to that. We're going to do a couple more here. The next one says, if your partner backs away and avoids talking, you may have to wait for them to come back around patiently. So we kind of talked through this one a little bit. I think we kind of added that to the one about stepping away, cooling off. And sometimes it's not from being mad. Sometimes it could just be something going on that is triggering you, that's not necessarily around your spouse. It could just be, there was a bad day at work. Something's bad. You ask them, and they're like, I'm okay, I don't want to talk about it right now. Sometimes you just got to say, okay, when you're ready, let me know,
Yeah.
and you be okay with it. I mean, obviously you're going to be concerned, because nobody wants to see their spouse upset and avoiding conversation, especially if you guys have a pretty healthy communication lifestyle. If you're communicating well, it can be difficult, but again, it's understanding that, they need some time to process things, and you got to you do have to give them that space. And me in the beginning, I'm like, no, you got to tell me what it is now, because I don't like walking around with this tension. I don't like drama. I don't like, and I say a lot of people do, but I just don't like anything where I feel like there's this spirit, there's this, this is feeling in the house that something's wrong. So I'm going to try to address it right then and there. But I had to learn again, and whether it's my fault or not, be available to listen, be available when it comes. You can't be mad. So be impatient about it. You can't be like, well, I don't want to hear it now. I asked you about it and you don't want to tell me. So don't worry about it. Like, you can't be like that, because again, people have to take time to gather themselves. They have to take time to figure out what it is that they may not know why they feel the way they feel. Sometimes people just don't know. Like, I'm in a mood today, and it's
Right.
not
Sometimes they just don't feel
you.
like talking. I mean, it's like, it's, to me, just knowing your spouse. I mean, being around your spouse for so long, you know how to read them. They might not even say anything, but you just know their body language, how they look and stuff like that. That
Right.
they in that, they in that mood that they just, sometimes they just don't want to talk. It don't always have to be anything wrong. It don't have to be work. It don't have to be the relationship. It don't have to be anything. It just be at that moment that they just not in the mood to talk, and it's okay.
Yeah.
And you can't force them to talk, you gotta, because I know I'm guilty at this at time. I mean, I don't know if I still do it, but I know I did at the beginning. But I know I was guilty at feeding off of what you gave off.
Mm.
So if you was acting a certain way, I'm gonna act that certain way too, just because you acting that way. You want to act like you don't want to talk, you acting like this, whatever. Oh, I'm about to act like that too. But I'm like, that ain't right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because if you in that mood, that be, especially for a man, I'm speaking to the wives. It's okay for a man not to want to talk or feel a certain way or be emotional, because I guess you go back to, when men are growing up, they've been taught to not be crybabies or not be this or not be that or not show their emotion. When you grow up, you got to realize as a male, it's okay, and as a female, it's okay.
Yeah.
You don't have to feel like because you with this man and your man is emotional now, you less than a man, or I need you to be hard, or I need you to be this or that, whatever. But it's okay for males or females, whatever. But just speak for the males. It's okay for you guys to feel like you don't want to talk or anything, and for us females to learn that just give them their space. I mean, because for a man to be a real priest, prophet, and king, that's the head or whatever. I had to learn that you guys have a lot on your shoulders. A lot of weight on you, and to try to lead a house, working in corporate and all that kind of stuff. It's a lot. And I had to learn that, you're carrying a lot. And I had to learn to be patient. And it's okay if it's a time that you don't want to talk,
Yeah.
and just step away. And the same thing for me.
Yeah.
But I'm just speaking to the wise right now.
I mean, it's again, it goes both ways with the husbands. I think it's just being letting your spouse know that you're there when they you're ready to talk or you feel like you need to. I'm there, and be there. Just listen. Sometimes they don't need you to say anything. They don't need you to
Mm-hmm.
analyze them. They don't need you to be psychologists. They just want you to listen and just love on them, and that's where the patience comes in, just be patient and, kind of go from there. And I think you'll be appreciated more than just reciprocating what you like. I'm just gonna mirror what you give me. You give me this kind, I'm gonna give it right back to you. That's not love. That's childish, and I think a lot of people
So
have
you
experienced that.
so you say I was being childish?
No, because I think there was times where I got,
Oh,
I mean,
just
no, I mean, I'm just saying, but there was times where I would do that. I'm like, man, I'm sitting up here trying to be nice, blah, blah, blah. And she just like, whatever. I'm like, well, then I'm not going to be nice. I'm just going to go, I mean, I had those moments. I mean, I mean, honestly, a lot of people have those moments.
I think everybody had those moments.
It's like, all right, well, that's how we go. This is what we're doing. All right. And, and especially in the beginning, because I don't have all these same tools, so I haven't had this experience. So that's why it's good to listen to. These are things that divorced people are saying. If they did these things or managed these things, they probably would have still been married. So move on to the next one. Marriage is not always exciting. finding the joy in the day-to-day will serve your marriage well. And I think that piggybacks off of some of the stuff earlier. You're going to have your ups and downs. You're going to have times where you feel like you are nothing but servants to your kids. You are doing everything. The kids are busy with activities. Kids got this going on. You got school, you got help with homework, and you got to do stuff for work. And by the time you sit down, y'all, you're tired. Y'all mentally tired, drained, and it's like, I'm going to bed. You have to find ways. You have to find ways throughout. There's going to be challenges. There's going to be lulls. There's going to be times where it's like, dude, this ain't what I thought marriage is going to be. No,
it's going to be seasons. I mean, your marriage is
yeah.
going to go through so many seasons from, the day you get married until the day you guys die.
Right.
But throughout those seasons, to go back what you were saying, you got to find something exciting and fun to do within those seasons, because especially when you're in a season of being servant to your kids,
I don't know if you ever stop, but it as they get older, they get more self-sufficient, so they're not required to do much.
Right. But during those times where it's easy to find yourself not being excited about the marriage, especially if you're not making time for each other. And that goes back to what we talked about last week. Having dates.
That part, you have to be intentional with everything. You got to find, like, look, I don't care what it is, we just gonna go do it. We just need to get away and move on to the next thing, do something with each other, whatever it is. But you do have to be intentional with that. And so kind of to piggyback off of that, the next one, kind of piggybacks off that one, when it says a good marriage means getting your hands dirty, participating each day, not expecting perfection. Yes. Yes to all of that. You have to roll up your sleeves. You can't expect for your spouse to do all these things that you want them to do when you're not doing it. You got to be 100% in. That's where that 50-50, there's no 50-50. You got to be 100%, 10 toes down. I'm in this thing. You can't say that your spouse is your ride or die and you only ride with them till it's good. But when the wheels get wobbly and things ain't necessarily in the right path, gas ain't what it should, you ain't got the gas in there, you're running out of gas and things just ain't, it's breaking down here and there. You can't just walk away. You're not ride or die for that. That ain't your ride or die if you're not 100%, 110%. If, I hate when people say that, but if you're not all in, you're not getting the best out of your marriage. Even with those times where things are, down, you're not going to be able to make it through that if you're not fully committed to work through it. You got to participate. Right. You got to be present. You got to be there. Mm-hmm. And it ain't going to be perfect. If somebody tells you that their marriage is perfect, they are lying to you. Lying.
It can be right. It can be really, 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 really good, but I don't know about perfect. But just going back, something just hit me going back to the 50-50 portion. If just say for the ones who say 50-50, because we said that at the very, very beginning of my marriage.
Right, but we heard people saying that. Yeah, it was something that we've heard from other people. It's 50-50. Give and take in marriage. You gotta be willing to give and take. So
right.
It was
good. But think about 50, like 50-50. What's the 50 on a grading scale in school?
F. Well, right. About now, no child left behind. You still pass it. Yeah.
Right. So
no marriage left 50, behind.
Right. So 50 is an F. So just take, for instance, if only one spouse was giving 50, because I'm giving my 50, but what if the other person ain't giving a 50? What's happening to your marriage at that time?
Even if they are giving you 50, your average is going to be 50.
Exactly. So what's 50 on a grade scale?
You flunked.
You failing. So your marriage
depending
is
on
failing.
the grading scale you in, but again, that's that new stuff. But anyway, yeah. But you're right. You are failing. You're failing. And you're cheating yourself, because how can you say I'm giving 50% of myself into marriage, and what are you giving the other 50% to?
You better not be to the other person that you lusting over.
Right. That's what I'm saying. If you only gave 50%, then you got 50% for what? Is that 50% for you? Because if that's the case, that means I'm only committed to you for half of myself and I'm giving the other half of myself. I mean, you have to take time for yourself in marriage.
You have
There
to
has to
take
be
time
time
yourself.
for individual growth. 100% agree with that. But
Mm-hmm.
the metaphor of saying I'm doing that for the purpose of making myself better for my wife, for my kids, for my family, for those relationships that I care about. That's why I have to take time for myself. It's not being selfish. It's so that I can be better for those that I love. That's why you take time. That's why you have to worry about, I don't, of course I want myself to look good, but I want to work out, exercise, and take care of my body so that I'm here for my wife, for my kids, so they don't have to bury me at a young age because of my health, my poor health choices and things like that. So that's my thought process. It's not like, yeah, I want to get all big and buff and cut and all this stuff so I can look in the mirror and people be like, ooh. I just want to make sure that I'm here. I want to be here for my grandkids, that I
I
can run
mean,
around with them.
it does look good, though. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, what can I say? But y'all get what I'm saying. I mean, yeah, I love when KK, when she, I love it when she works out and I can tell she got the little confidence about herself and she walking around flexing her guns and all that stuff. And, I love it, but at the same time, she's doing it she's taking time for herself, but she's doing it for the purpose. So for the purpose of the end goal is to say, I'm doing this for my family. I don't want my kids and my wife to have to bury me, at a young age. And so many times we do that because we don't take the time to look at that. We don't take care of our health, mental health, physical health, all that stuff. It is important. So, you definitely have to get in. You've got to get dirty, get your hands dirty. You can't just expect other people to do it for you. You can't expect your spouse to do it for you. You got to jump in there and do it yourself, and it's not going to be perfect. And I'm going to go back to the perfect phase. You can have people that you are perfect for each other. But if you're expecting that every day is going to be, is going to be met without challenge, then you're mistaken. You're going to have challenges. You're going to have challenges. Kids are going to introduce a different challenge. It's not impossible to overcome, but there are challenges. You can get through them, but they're there. So where are we at now? I think I want to do two more, and then we're gonna go ahead and end this one, and call it an episode. This one is good. It says, we are all under construction as works in progress. And that's the key, because a lot of people say that they want to be perfect before they get married. And, I mentioned that story before with KK and me. I had this plan of, I wanted to have a job making X amount of money and have my own place, or, have an apartment, which I did, but have a bigger apartment that can accommodate a family, a small family starting off. And, I had this mindset, and I was going to wait until I got to that place before I got married, and I know that when KK came to me, she was like, we're a team, we can build this together, we don't have to wait. And it wasn't because I was just the bomb where she just wanted to go. I mean, the relationship, she was ready. She knew what she wanted. I knew I wanted to marry her, and when she told me that, it just pushed it over the top, because I understood that I didn't have to be perfect. I had to find the right person, the perfect person for me. And God took care of all the rest and made sure that everything was good, because I was willing, she was willing to grow together. We were a team. The next part of that says, accept your partner as long as he or she is working on it. So again, if I would have stayed in the mindset that I had at the beginning of marriage, and all the things that KK would talk to me about and tell me this is what she needs from me, if I would have said, I can't change, this is who I am, there's no way we would be here right now, a couple months away from celebrating 20 years of marriage, because she would have been like, I can't do it. And I would have been the same way. I love her. And I tell her, like, we here, I ain't trying to get, but at some point you go through those moments where it's like, I can't keep dealing with that. We can't keep dealing with that. We have to make changes. And as long as we're willing to work on it, that's been our thing. We've always said, As long as we're willing to work on it and continue to work on it and not give up, then we're going to keep doing it. We're going to keep riding this thing out, and that is very important. We are all under construction, and we have to accept that, we're not perfect, but we're going to keep working at it to form and come into shape where we need to be.
Right. I mean, even though we've been married almost 20 years in June, there's still things that you and I are working on. We're
Yeah.
still, I mean, it may sound crazy, but we're still learning each other in certain aspects. So, I mean, I just feel like it's always going to be a work in progress. It should be. I mean, you should never get content in your marriage that
No,
you're not, working to be a better you.
because seasons change, and we find out new things about ourselves. We discover different things about ourselves. And in that process, again, we're learning, we have to figure out how that change impacts our marriage. And so it's just important to know that it's a moving target, and it will be a moving target, because as we get to a certain stage, you go through a phase where, like right now, we're building businesses and income streams and things like that. And it's going to come a point in time where those things are operating on autopilot, and then we're at a different stage. We're not the same stage we were when we first got together. I'm not the same person. She's not the same person, so there should be growth. We should see that growth. All right, I know I said one more. I'm going to do two more. Now I'm cutting it off.
Two more. You said two more
I know,
after the
but these are
last
so
one.
good. These are so good. So, all right, we're going to do two more. I promise, two more. That's it. We're going to shut it down. These are just good. Intimacy is the one thing that separates your marriage from your other relationships. Nurture it. Now, when everybody hears intimacy and they go and say, "Oh, sex." No, it's not just sex. That's the problem. If you look at intimacy as just sex, then yes, especially for those that have cheated on the spouse and all that stuff, there's no separation, because it's just the sex. You're just in it for the physical part of that. Intimacy is about knowing what's on her mind, knowing her thoughts, being able to respond to those without her having to say those things.
Intimacy is so much deeper than sex.
It is.
Intimacy into
Don't.
me.
Oh my
I
God.
see.
Into me, you see.
Into I see.
Yeah. We laugh because we've heard that a lot, but I mean, it's a good little way to put it in there. But again, it is.
I was about to say.
Because I could tell the way your face lit up. I knew that's where you're going. See, that's what I'm saying. When you're around this person, like that's intimacy we're laughing about it, but we know where we're coming from. So, that's that whole part to it. It's about knowing, like, there's certain things that I do or she does, and it's like we don't even have to tell. Like, I won't tell her, like, this is something that I desire, or she tells me that's something I desire, but she just does it, or I do it. And it's not a sexual thing. It's just, hey, I know that's what you need. I know you need this. If I feel like something's going on, and it's like, hey, you need a massage, and whether I give it to her or I take her somewhere to get it, you need to take some time to do this. If there's, fix her a plate, bring it to her. She fixes me a plate, bring it to me. Here's something to drink. Don't have to get up. It's pleasantries like that. You build those up, and I'll just say they're like points, right? Or let's take it like a slot machine. The old ones, you putting coins in there, you pumping coins. Eventually, you're gonna pump a coin. You're gonna hit that jackpot. When you hit that jackpot, that's when the grace comes, and then you tap that grace, and woo. Ain't that right, KK?
Don't go there. Don't go there.
Yeah, okay. So,
I mean, it could be. I mean,
it.
it could just be like, yeah, it could be like, it's almost like foreplay.
It is. I mean, it definitely can be. And again, if you can stimulate your woman's mind, you have that control over. If you can stimulate their mind, you can control their body. And I'm not saying in a weird dominant way. I'm saying you can control it to where what her vibes are giving off, and that just builds up. So when it comes to that time of the physical part of marriage, the sex, when you get to that point, it's like, okay, now y'all are in tune with each other. And it's all about, again, now you've built up that equity in her, and now you're cashing in on that equity, or him, both vice versa, husband and wife, you're cashing in on that. But if everything is just the physical, after a while it's like, okay, yeah, that's cool, but what else are you stimulating? Are you stimulating? Are we talking about our fears? Are we talking about things that our dreams? It's so many other things about it. And you've got to tap into all of those. If you only focus on, she or he, they came 1,000 times. And I'm talking about climax. So I'm gonna tag this one if this ain't kid friendly. So, this ain't one to listen to with kids, but I mean, just being honest, I did this, I did that. You walking around like, you the man, you the woman, because you done did all that stuff. It's like, that's cool. But they might be like, I wanted more than that. I ain't just want that, that's cool. But in a marriage, you gotta go deeper. You gotta pull them covers back. Yeah, you gotta pull them layers back. I'm gonna just leave it at that. Anything else you want to add to that one?
No, we don't. No, next point.
All right, last point. Because she know I go in, so that's why she's starting to blush now.
Like just like you cut me off my intimacy, I see.
No, because you knew. That's why you started smiling like that. You knew you was getting ready to go with that, and I was like, here she goes. I thought about saying, I was like, I'm not using that. That's been used so many times, and you was just like, like intimacy.
But it was funny though.
Yeah, it was. You made it funny. All right, last one. This is it. Last one. A good marriage requires two people who are both still learning about life and each other. Stop acting like
touched on that.
We did, but stop acting like you got everything, because it says about life and each other. Stop acting like you know everything about life, because you ain't experienced that much. You ain't experienced everything. I don't care if you 20 something years old, 40 something, 30 something, 50 something, you're still learning, because every stage of your life, there's different things that you're exposed. There's things that God is going to expose to you as you gain more experience, and he's going to give you access to as you do things. And it's the same thing with your marriage. And it says a good marriage requires two people who are both still learning. If I sit here and act like I know everything and I'm not learning, do you think I'm going to be good for my wife who's developing and still learning and she's still growing? I'll be looking at her like, if that was the case, I'd be looking at her like, you don't know that, or you should be here, you should be there. Like, no, we both still growing. There's things that we don't understand. We haven't given ourselves the opportunity to, that again, we start to learn, and you uncover those new things about each other, and it just enhances the love more, but don't act like you know it all, because you don't. We don't. We learn it every day. We have experience that we can draw from, but we don't know everything.
I mean, things that we haven't been exposed to yet,
Right. So, I mean, that's again, it's just about healthy marriages, good marriages. You've got to be real with each other that y'all are still growing. I don't care if you 60 something years old. If you ain't dead, you ain't dead. You still moving around. You learning. Like, you have to be a student of life. You learn everything. And just like in your marriage, I don't care. We're sitting here, we got experience of 20, going on 20 years, but there's people that we know that's got 30, 40, 50, 60 years or more of marriage that know a lot more than us. And they'll probably tell you, I still learn different things about my spouse, because that's what you should be doing.
Yeah.
If you're not learning about each other, then, the marriage is going to die, and the relationship is going to die, because there's no growth. There's no growth for each other. It's like, we just, if you just had that mentality, like, I am, this is who I am. This is who I'm going to be. I'm not changing for nobody. And, you might be at a point in life, especially those as you start to get older, you at a point in life where it's like, man, our kids are grown. We don't have to do this. Let's go out and do some stuff. You're like, we ain't never do that before. I just want to stay at home, sit on my chair and watch my stories and news or whatever else you watch. And you just stuck in a routine. There's no growth in that. Now you have the ability to do more, with each other. Do it. That's where we're at. We're like, look, we got the ability to do more. We've got it. Now we can focus on it, where before we thought it was difficult. Now we don't have babies anymore. We're at a different phase. So we're learning more about ourselves, about each other, about ourselves individually. So, that's really where that comes in at, and it does require, you have to be willing to learn about life, again, life and each other, because you don't know it all.
Yeah, you definitely gonna learn something after you have kids and they grown. You're gonna
Yeah.
learn if y'all want to be together or not, if y'all ain't learning each other before then.
Yeah, and that's why you want to know it now, because again, start where you are. You can't make up for years lost, but you can start where you are. Because at the end of the day, when you become, everybody will become empty nesters. The last thing you want to be able to do, and I've heard this from people that I've related to, they've told me this and said, the one thing that they wish they would have did was spent more time. I mean, my mom told me that, like, I wish I would have spent more time, with your dad and kind of catering to him, when y'all were kids, because, she felt like, I kind of left him out to dry, not on purpose, but she was just so into her kids. And you don't want to get to that place where now, she was, in her, going through her deathbed and, passing away and transitioning, whatever. And you're having these moments, and it's like, wow, you feel like, wow, I wish I would have known that. And she shared that with me, when she was in the hospital, like, I wish I would have did this. She was like, I want you. She told me, I want you and KK to make sure that you spend time with each other, this and that and other. That's one thing I wish I would have done more of. So, again, those shoulda, coulda, wouldas, these are things that now you have the ability. If you got health, you got breath in your body, you get up each day, you should be looking at how I can live for my spouse and live for my family, and it may, you don't have to do everything at once, but each day figure out something new, something different, be spontaneous in some things, it don't have to be a lot. Today we decided we worked out together. We do it sometimes we don't, but it's just the idea that we worked out together. That's intimacy. That goes back to intimacy. That's intimacy.
And to me,
Oh,
you
Jesus.
see.
All right. So I'm gonna give you the last word, KK. You got anything else you want to add before we close this thing out, since you onto this into me? I see. You see,
No,
somebody see.
no, you said a mouthful on the last one. I mean,
You trying,
the
that basically
biggest,
said I said I talked a lot. That's what
you
she's
talked
saying.
a lot. Yeah, you talked a whole lot.
Okay.
But I mean, just go back to, when I look at that, I just feel like what it says to me is, how can I, what's new that I can learn about you that I can do for you to make you excited about that day. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, I mean,
just kind of jumped out to me.
yeah, I mean, and it is, and that's the important thing. I mean, even if you can, it's just the thought. It's to start to thinking about that, and where the more you think about it, the more things will manifest. So, speaking and let them know, like, hey, I was thinking. I mean, it could be something small, like, hey, I was thinking about you. I grabbed you one of those things from the store you like, candy bar, chips, something a drink that she likes or he likes, just. I see you been down, want to get you this, something small. It don't have to be no expensive thing. It can just be something sentimental.
You're
But
speaking to yourself.
no, I'm just saying general. I mean, I've go to the store. When I go to Five Below, what do I get you sometimes?
A Boston baked beans and
Boston baked beans.
some raisinets.
Right. Because I know you like those and you don't get them a lot, but I like, hey, I thought about that. I got you this. I don't call you and tell you, hey, you want me to get you this? I just bring them home, right?
You learning.
Yeah. I mean, but that's
I
part
mean,
of the growth.
I'm just talking about the point you said it don't have to be anything expensive, because that
No.
was always your thing. You always felt like,
Hey,
you couldn't do stuff. Okay, I'm sorry.
No,
I don't have anything else to say.
No, I'm just saying. We talked about. I mean, we mentioned that on here before, but yeah, I mean, that's how I was. I was like, we were dating, and she went away. Was that for your birthday? You went to Texas, and she came home, and I bought her like a $2,000 TV. Now I'm in college. I'm working full time, but I'm in college. I had an apartment. I had no business buying her, but I wanted to get her this because I was like, I love her so much. I just want her to come home and come into the apartment and see this TV and be like, oh. And she came in and she was surprised, but then she was like, you bought this? How much did this cost? Of course, she started going into, and we weren't even married. We weren't even engaged yet, I don't think. We might have been engaged by then. Yeah, we were
Oh,
engaged. We were engaged by then because you were at your apartment, so we was engaged.
yeah, I was in Franklin.
Yeah, so I went to H Gregg and bought this TV, and because I thought I thought I was just going to do this great thing, and I was like, I didn't have to do that. I thought I did. I always thought I had to do the big things. Like I would defer moments of small things to do these big things, and that's not what KK necessarily wanted. And that's why I always tell people, go read the book, The Five Love Languages. We highly suggest that. Find out what
Mm-hmm.
your spouse's, your partner's love language is, because sometimes y'all will go do something, we will go do something for our spouse thinking that's what they want. And it's really more of what we want, and we want to give that to them because that's what we would have wanted. You know, um, that's not how it works. It'll be she would appreciate it, he would appreciate it, but if you're speaking their language, if it's things that they like to do or things that you do for them what they like, not would give them what you want to give them. That's where you get in trouble, or that's where things aren't appreciated. If in my instance, it was waiting a long time and buying this one big thing and then thinking that's going to hold me over to the next big thing, the next holiday, or Christmas, or whatever, birthday or something like that. And it was like, no, that's not, you don't have to do that. Break that up. You're going to spend 2,000, break it up, do it in other little things, find other little ways. Maybe it's flowers, maybe it's taking her on a picnic somewhere, maybe it's just taking her car and putting gas in it.
I mean, unless they got it like that. I mean, some people may have
I
it
mean,
where
yeah,
they can spend.
you may, I didn't. I made it. I mean, I didn't have it. I was stupid again. I didn't know about credit and all that. I got a credit card and bought this dog on TV, and
Don't say stupid. You were just immature.
I was stupid.
Yeah, you
But
were.
I mean, my intentions were good because I did it because I loved her and I wanted her to know, and I wanted her to give her this big thing. And so that's why I always said my goal, I wanted to get to a place where I can buy her whatever I wanted to buy her and money not be a problem. And for KK not to be like, how much did you spend on this? Like, she just be like, we got it. I'm not worried about it, and just be able to continue to do that. So, whether it was trips, taking her to Spain or whatever, it was like what we've grown and our finances have grown, our love has grown, we've God has advanced us to be able to do more. So again, learning about each other, this goes to the last point, we're learning about each other and learning about life. I start figuring out how to manage my money better thanks to her and just experience, and we're in a better place. Still a lot to learn, still a lot to grow from, but it's better. So all right, I think we've done a good job with this episode, KK. I appreciate everybody, tuning in, listening. If you guys have anything that you want us to talk about, if you have any questions, you can always send me an email, airflowpodcast@gmail.com. I'm always looking at that, feedback through our Facebook page, facebook.com/airflow podcast. Again, the Marriage Transparency Diary podcast will be coming soon. We're just trying to get the rest of our equipment, everything set up, get that going. We're going to start doing that. It's going to be a monthly episode. The Airflow will continue to go. I'll continue to have KK on because as I said, when I first started this, it was, she brings value. This is part of her vision for me. It's a good way for me to kind of walk in this thing and to be able to share about life, marriage, and just how kingdom heirs are supposed to live. So marriages, as I always say, is one of the most important relationships that God has instituted for us as kingdom heirs. So we have to continue to grow it. We have to continue to make it better, and be able to evangelize that it is good. There are challenging times, but it is still a good relationship to have. It's still God ordained, and if you do it right, even if sometimes you establish it from the wrong pretenses, you can still grow and make it into a success if you truly put in the work and be willing to put in the work. So as always, you were created to be a kingdom heir, and as a kingdom heir, you were called to flow. So flow on. See you guys.